episode number 95.
And today we have with us a female solo traveler who left her hometown to explore the world and document her journey through YouTube and Instagram. She's been to over 12 countries and counting. It is Alice Chapman. Say hello.
Hey, how are you all?
Ooh,
Nice.
Well, we're doing great.
Yes.
I hope everything is good on your end.
It's amazing over here. Yeah.
Awesome. Yes, she is in Honduras right now. How long have you been there for so far?
I've been in Honduras for just under a week.
Just under a week.
Oh,
So
okay.
not too long.
Yeah. And where were you before that?
Yeah, I was gonna ask that.
Before that, I was in El Salvador, and before that, Guatemala, and before that, Mexico. And I'm currently on a hitchhiking journey from Mexico to Colombia.
Oh my gosh.
Wow, that is amazing. And that can just
Yeah.
lead me on to the very first question is I know there's so many steps leading up to traveling solo around the world. What are some obstacles you faced when you first started out traveling?
When I first started traveling, I think my first ever trip was around Europe for 2 months when I was 18. And I had a lot of expectations of what it was going to be like, who I was going to become. Like everyone goes traveling and like thinks they're going to find themselves and all this stuff. And actually, I think none of it is true. And because I had so many expectations, it really, really ruined my trip. But it made me learn a lot. And so, yeah, I think the main obstacle was like thinking my trip was going to be something that it was not, and just like visualizing everything way too much instead of just like taking everything as it comes.
And was it like, did it make that trip like more difficult for you, or like what kind of expectations did you have for it?
I think all my life I'd been dreaming of going traveling, and that because that was like my first ever trip away, it was like all my dreams coming true. And it was just like all these expectations that I'd had from such a young age. And it just wasn't like that at all. I think it got me in a really negative mindset, and I found it really difficult to meet people. And I just kind of like did everything wrong. I don't know, it's hard to explain, but I think everyone has a very like individual style of traveling, and it took me a while to find my style and like fit into myself.
Oh wow, that makes me wonder. So at what point did you feel like you slowly started to figure it out and it became more of enjoyment than, feeling like it wasn't as good as it could have been?
It was the second time I went away, and I went to Morocco for a month,
Morocco.
and that was the best month of my life. It was, I think, 6 months after I'd got back from my first trip, and I'd really learnt loads of lessons as to what had gone wrong on my first trip. And Morocco, I just did not plan anything. I went there with like one day of accommodation sorted, and after that I just like let the world take control of me. And it was it was the best month of my life. And that was when I first ever hitchhiked. I did my first couch surfing. I met so many interesting people. And yeah, that was just because I didn't plan anything, and so I had nothing to expect. I just let it be what it was.
No, that's awesome. So would you say like the more spontaneous you are with these trips, like the better?
Definitely. I think everyone's different. And sometimes, like, especially when traveling on your own, it is quite hard to be spontaneous, because I think like you always want a bit of security of like where are you going to sleep, or like where you're going to go next. But the problem is, even if you try and plan just small things like where you're going to sleep tomorrow, like there's so much room for things to go wrong just between now and tomorrow. Like getting from place A to B, like so much can change. And so then when your plans fail, then you're so disappointed.
Okay. So I guess also that has me curious about how you plan like your next trip, like the next country that you visit. Like how does this work? Or is it just strictly like all spontaneous? Like you just had no like roadmap?
To be fair, this trip I have kind of planned to hitchhike from Mexico to Colombia. That was like a big yeah, it's like a plan that I had when I first went to Mexico. But I don't normally plan much more than a week in advance. I quite often will have like a volunteer project sorted on Workaway, and that you do need to try and arrange far in advance because people often take a long time to get back to you.
Mm.
But if I'm just staying in places for a few nights, I don't really plan in advance. I just kind of go there. There's also really good websites that you can stay with people for free, and that you do have to kind of like arrange a few days before, but it's all very, very relaxed and nothing's ever really definite until you get there.
Mm.
Wow. It's something that is making me think, being so young, 20 years old, everyone. She is 20.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, she is 20, traveling the world. And it just amazes me to think, I mean, you were once sitting at home. I don't know if it's with your parents or any guardians, and you just said, I'm gonna just one day get up and go. Like, were there any like doubts from others? Like, what did people have to say to you? And did you ever like take them into account, or did you just not even listen to these people?
It's actually because of my parents that I want to travel so much.
Oh, wow.
I think I traveled quite a bit with them when I was younger, and that really opened my eyes. And so they have certainly never tried to stop me from traveling. However, I think hitchhiking is a big issue with a lot of people. I'm constantly being told by so many people, don't hitchhike, it's so dangerous, you're so stupid, blah, blah, blah. And like, it's like the same conversations every time. Like, why'd you do this? Aren't you scared? Oh, I'll drive you to the bus stop. And people just don't understand that I want to hitchhike because I want to meet the locals, I want to immerse myself in the culture. And it's sometimes very hard because so, like everyone says don't hitchhike, it's dangerous. And so it's like, how am I meant to know when it actually is dangerous, like I've been hitchhiking like every day for a year
Wow.
and never really had any problems. And and so like, oh, it's so dangerous, but
Mhm.
it hasn't really been dangerous. So it's kind of like the boy who cried wolf. Like it's very hard to know when to actually listen to people. But
Interesting.
my like close friends and family are all very supportive of what I do.
That's so good.
Yeah, no, I was about to say, like, it's one of those things as well. It's like everyone's telling you the same thing, but how many people have actually like had an experience to tell you or like a story to tell you about like what's happened to them? Because I mean, even over here, the same concept applies. Even when just like road tripping across the country, it's like, okay, you can't even. The thought of hitchhiking just sounds so dangerous even over here. So like across the world too, my like that seems even scarier. But it's surprising to hear that with you doing it for over a year, like nothing bad has happened with it, huh?
I think actually like I do it mainly in much poorer countries, which are like the more stereotypically dangerous countries. But actually, over here, hitchhiking is a lot more normalized. Like a lot more people hitchhike, which means a lot more of like the nicer people are likely to pick you up.
Hmm.
Whilst in the countries that are more safe or like stereotypically safe, like it's more the drivers that are scared of the hitchhikers instead of the other way round.
Oh,
And
wow.
so none of the nice people will pick you up. And then it like leaves a lot more opportunity for the weirdos to take advantage of you.
Mhm. Well, something that I'm so glad that, you're able to be here and talk to us, and you've been safe traveling. So that is truly a blessing. So thank you for that, being here.
Yeah.
Something that I'm wondering, what are like the top three things you've learned from like solo traveling? What were major things that you've taken away from
Hmm. I think what I said earlier about not having any expectations, because yeah, expectations will kind of, I think, ruin your experience. Like
it?
your experience won't be very pure. um I think like always, if you're traveling on your own, like don't change your journey for other people. Like always like stick to your own thing, and don't like wait for other people. Like always do what you want to do and what you intend to do regardless of others, because if you know, if you stay in every single place that people ask you to stay for longer, then you will never get anywhere.
Ooh.
What else have I learned? Main thing, actually, like, the world really is not as dangerous as everyone tells you it is. Like, people live in almost every country in the world, which means it is possible to survive in every country in the world. And it's always the people who have never traveled themselves that tell me all the scary stories. It's the people who haven't had the incredible positive experiences of traveling that try to scare me. And when I speak to people who have traveled a lot, they're the ones that say, oh yeah, like that was amazing, and like we can share all these amazing stories. And by and large, everything is very positive.
Wow. Yeah, no, that's amazing. And I guess what are some of the things that uh like when you're traveling, like the locals, like do they ever take you to like certain areas that only they know of, or like do they share that their hometown with you? Like are they open
Yeah,
to sharing what they know?
a lot. Yeah, especially over here, people are so kind. Like, people, mainly, actually more so like in Turkey and the Middle Eastern area, which has like the worst stereotype ever. I think they are the kindest people in the world. Like, when I was in Turkey and in the northern region of Iraq, in Kurdistan, like every 10 minutes you get an invitation to dinner, or like an invitation to someone's house. Like, constantly people coming up to you, trying to give you food, trying to help you. Like, you'll be on the street not even trying to hitchhike, and people will stop and try and like ask where you're going, and or like drive in a different direction just for you. And so yeah, local people do really make an effort to show me their lives.
Wow, yeah, no, that's awesome. Because like what I've heard is that some people would, like when they see foreigners, they just kind of want to stay away. Like, maybe they'll disrespect our culture. Maybe we just don't want to mess with them. But to hear like all these stereotypes being broken by
Yeah.
your experience is like it's changing my mind about how I see like other cultures and the way they treat foreigners. And I guess that's my next question too. Like, have you seen many other foreigners traveling around the same time that you have?
In Mexico, yes, absolutely full of travelers, and Guatemala as well. And I think actually, like, this area of the world where I am now, Central America, it's very open. So like there's a lot of people traveling around here, as opposed to other countries where COVID's a big problem. Um, in Turkey, there weren't so many. There were a few, but it was a lot harder to find. But over here, Mexico especially, there's a really massive traveling community.
Wow, that is amazing. And I also do want to add on that point that he said, breaking the stereotypes, that I know many are watching you and wondering, how is things not happening to her? And it's so good to see that, you being in there, you can actually speak on these things and show people the world is not as bad as the news, as social media makes you think it is. And I'm so glad that you said that. And also, I do wonder if when you're in those countries, does it feel like anything?
like I guess what we're trying to figure out here is like when you travel to these countries like that, aside from like the bad news and everything that comes out of that, like has there been certain things that you see like as sketchy, or like places that you like stay away from, or has it all been good? Because I know there has to be some kind of like challenges that you face on the daily.
Normally I always stay with locals, so I very rarely stay in hostels. I always use this amazing app called couch surfing, where you can stay with locals for free and they will show you everything. And so they will always say, like, don't go here or don't go there. And like, for example, we were driving the other day through the city in Honduras, and it was nighttime, and there was a red traffic light, and my host just drove through the red traffic light and said, a big like rule in Honduras is never stop at a red traffic light. Like, if there's no other traffic, just go, because often people will like take advantage of you being stopped and they will try and rob the car. And like, I would never have known that if he hadn't told me. But at the same time, like, I did not see anyone trying to rob any cars. So I think, yeah, always always listen to the locals, and if you want to stay safe, just do what the locals do.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's just kind of like little precautions they have to take,
Yeah.
just like anywhere else. So yeah, I guess that makes sense too. And I have a question about like the language barriers that you must come across. Like, how do
Oh,
you
that's a
communicate
good one.
to the locals or to the people around you?
I can actually speak almost good Spanish.
Oh, really?
Wow.
So over here, I don't have, well, I have a bit of a language barrier, but like I can talk enough.
Mm.
In Turkey, there was always a bit of a language barrier that was very difficult, and often like, you think you understand something and you think someone's taking you to this place, and then it turns out to be something completely different. And
Mm.
I mean, it's kind of annoying, but also it's part of traveling. Like, it's just funny, and it's those like weird, unexpected situations that I think like are very character building, and like working out how to get out of these weird situations when like you're in like a random place that you thought you were going somewhere else. It's like, yeah, I just find stuff like that so funny.
Yeah,
Google Translate normally does the job though.
definitely.
Yeah.
That's true. I guess what other resources have you learned to like use like throughout your travels? Like other than couch surfing, Google Translate, like what else do you recommend that people have like
Mm.
in their arsenal to just to make traveling as simple as possible?
Offline maps is a very, very good one. I don't have a SIM card in my phone, so once I'm away from Wi-Fi, like I can't connect to the internet, and
Mm.
so having an offline map is really, really useful. Maps.me is a really good app. Or like Google Maps does actually work offline as long as you don't close the app. And like you can't plan direct routes, but you can still see your location and kind of like work it out. What else? Workaway. Workaway is an amazing site for volunteering, and you can do like different projects all over the world and get free food and accommodation in return for your
Oh,
work.
that's so
That's
cool.
That's a
helpful.
really good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of your
I
oh, I'm
think
sorry,
about it.
go ahead.
No, I just said that's it.
Okay.
Well, that no, I bet there's someone out here listening to this and wondering, what can I do to be in her position? One of your most recent Instagram captions hit really close to home with myself, and I was wondering if you could elaborate more on it for the people, which was fear of wasting young years.
Mhm.
And like, what can you
Um,
say about that to these people that want to do what you are doing?
I think if you are fearing of wasting your time, like now is the time to change. Don't keep thinking about how you're going to regret something. Like that, this is the opportunity to change it if you're feeling that fear of regret. Um, but I think the conclusion I made at the end of that post was you're not too old ever to do it. Like I've met so many travelers over the age of 50, some over the age of 60, and they're still doing it. Like I climbed a volcano in Guatemala with a 65-year-old.
Oh
And
wow.
yeah, she was at the back the whole time, but she still got to the top. And
Ooh,
so
that's so cool.
yeah, I think if you're scared of wasting your life, make the changes now before it's too late. But if you're already old and feel like you've already wasted your life, then again, now is the time to get up and go.
Love that.
And do you think that's like a mentality that like everyone should like involve into or like realize now rather than later, or do you just kind of like just sit back and let people do their own thing? Because like personally, like it's okay to like advocate for this kind of stuff and say, you know what, like we're young, let's go out and explore, let's get out of our comfort zone constantly. Or are you more passive on that whole idea?
What do you mean?
Because like how
I'm not
there's
sure
so there's online people like gurus who are like very pushy on like wasting our youth, and our like it's better to do things now sooner than later. And then you have the other side of things where it's like, well, it's never really too late. So like where do you stand on all that? And like do you advocate for like, what, go out there and do these things now?
I think it's never too late in terms of age.
Mm,
Like age is just a number. However, with age comes responsibility. And so it's just like if you're younger, you don't have children, you don't have a mortgage, you don't have so much of a full-time permanent job. Like, it's just easier in terms of commitment. Whilst when you're a bit older, it's not like, oh, I'm 60, I can't do it. It's more like the responsibilities that you have by that age and the restrictions within your life, I think.
Yeah, no, that does make sense, because that's something even I've heard, even with the little road trips that I've done here within the country. I've heard like a lot of older people saying, like, it's good that you're doing this, because the older you get, there's going to be more restrictions naturally that come with age and stuff like that. So yeah, like I definitely do resonate with that. And I mean, I'm all for people going out there and exploring and really just doing their own thing.
That makes a lot
Mhm.
of sense. And I also do feel like, since we are young and we do have an ability to travel, I also do wonder, and I know many do wonder, like, how are ways some come across income while traveling, and how are ways to produce enough to travel and enjoy?
I saved all my money before traveling. I don't earn anything now, so I've actually been saving to travel since I was about 9 years old.
Oh,
I
That's
wow.
was making cakes and cycling around my village trying to sell them to people. And then as soon as I was 16, which is like the legal age to have a proper job,
Mhm.
I started working in a pub. And then I had like so many different like odd jobs, just filling like all my time to try and save money. And my main job was working in a coffee shop for like 2 years.
Mm.
And so yeah, I saved all the money before I left. But now I don't need that much money. Again, like something I've learned is it's not as expensive as you think it will be. Again, it depends on your style of traveling, but like I can sometimes go weeks without spending any money, and then sometimes I'll spend like £50 in a day. Like it's different every day, but I think on an average I live on about £5 a day, which is maybe like $8, I think,
Oh,
seven or
Oh
wow.
eight
wow,
dollars.
that's so
Yeah.
good, especially to be traveling,
Yeah.
that much across multiple countries. That is very
Yeah.
impressive.
Yeah, I was about to say with that too, like that's yet another stereotype around, is that you have to have like an insane amount of money to go from country to country. And that's another, mindset that you've just broken with that.
Hmm.
So like what are some of the necessities other than like food and water for you to like sustain yourself throughout daily traveling?
Um, I like to have an internet connection all the time, which is not always easy to find.
Mm.
Um, I mean, all the stuff I carry in my bag, I mean, it's just like clothes, a sleeping bag, a little bit of food,
Hmm.
water. Like, I don't think I have anything more than necessities.
Oh,
Um, but like going to the money thing, I think that's very cheap to live off. But like my style of traveling is not for everyone.
Mm.
Like I understand that hitchhiking is not for everyone. Couch surfing is not for everyone. Like if you want to get buses, if you want to stay in hotels or hostels, it is going to be more expensive.
Mm.
very
Um,
true.
you can get hostels for like really, really cheap, but I always prefer to stay just like with a person because you can see more of the country, I think, like
Mm.
that.
Mhm.
So everything you own is in one backpack.
Three actually.
Three backpacks. Okay.
Three.
Oh,
I've bought so much stuff in Guatemala at this market because everything was so cheap. And then I wanted to post it all to England.
mm.
But then I found out that Guatemala didn't have a post office. So I carried all this stuff, it's 6 kilos of extra stuff, to
Oh,
El Salvador. And then in El Salvador, it was going to cost me $140 to post it back. So then I carried it to Honduras,
Oh,
and I haven't been to check how much it's going to cost.
oh
But
my.
if it's too much, I think I will just have to leave it and continue with my one bag.
Yeah.
oh.
Yeah, I was about to say as well, like for you was, I guess, minimizing all your belongings, like all your personal belongings, was that easy for you to do, or did you kind of struggle with getting rid of all the extra stuff that you had?
Um, I had my mum helping me pack, and she is like the most minimalist person. She's like, you don't need any more than two pairs of underwear. You only need one t-shirt, just have to wash it every day. And I'm like, Mum, I want a bit more than that. So so I had her like shouting at me the whole time I was packing, telling me what I did and didn't need. I think any advice for someone who is like packing their bag is take half the amount that you think you need, because you can always purchase things along the way if you really, really need it. And it's always hard to get rid of your stuff, because I'm sure like you have attachments to your things. Like I certainly have a lot of attachments to things that I don't use, but I don't want to get rid of.
Something that I'm curious about is your experience now in Honduras, like, and this whole week, and how has it been there, and how have the locals been treating you?
So I left the border and I started just talking to every car, just saying like, where are you going? Are you going to the capital? Can I come with you? And none of them were going to the
That's so
capital.
crazy.
And then there was like this police checkpoint. So I spoke to the police and said, like, can you help me try and find a car? Because they were stopping all the cars. And I think that there was a miscommunication, I don't know, but then like loads of cars came past and they did nothing. So then I got really pissed off at them. And I was like, why didn't you stop them? And then I just like went away to like a different place without the police. And then these women came up to me saying like, oh, don't stand here, you'll get assaulted, you'll get robbed, like go back to the police. And so then as I'm walking back to the police, I have my thumb out, and then this like private tour bus stops, and they said, where are you going? And I said, the capital. And they said, cool, we're going there as well, you can get in. And I said, well, I'm hitchhiking, like I don't really have the money to pay for the bus. And they said, oh, don't worry, it's absolutely fine, get on for free. So I got on the bus for free, and then I fell asleep, and I woke up to a man on the bus shaking me awake. And I was like, oh, why are you doing this? And then he'd bought me a sandwich and a cold drink. So that was a nice wake up surprise. And then I had like a shout out on the bus. There was this clown, I don't know where he came from, but he was like saying that, oh, everyone, like there's a girl from England here, and then like the whole bus is like cheering for me. So yeah, that was my first hour in Honduras. And it was very positive. Yeah.
Wow. So for total, you've been traveling for a year, right? Like you've been away from home for an entire year.
Almost a year. It was the 10th of August last year, and it's now, what's the date today? 29th of July. So yeah, almost a year.
Wow.
Wow, almost a year. Sometimes I like to think, do you ever feel like you get homesick? Do you ever feel like, I kind of want to go back home, or is traveling the world just something that you plan on consistently doing?
I do think about home a lot, but I don't consider going home. Not yet. I think I definitely want to go home. I think probably in the next year. But right now, like I have nothing to do at home. I don't want to study at the moment. I don't want to just go home and get a job. And I'm absolutely loving what I'm doing. And so I'm very happy continuing for now. But no, I don't want to travel forever. I think I would love to settle somewhere. I don't know if it will be England, but I think like full-time travel, I think I have about another year in me, maybe more. I don't know.
Oh yeah, that's pretty crazy. Like you plan on just going over a year just away from home. And I guess that has me wondering as well, like with you seeing all these different countries, has that changed your mind about like where you want to settle at?
No,
No.
actually, not at all. I know I want to be a journalist, and I would love to be able to work in loads of different countries doing that. So I guess it's more like wherever the work takes me as opposed to where I want to go.
Okay, nice.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and what about do you still keep in communication with like friends back from your hometown and your family? Are they constantly checking up on you?
What?
Sorry, it froze. What did you say?
Oh,
Okay, yeah. Sorry, we just got connection again. So what I was asking is like, do you keep in constant communication with like your friends back home and your family from your hometown?
I contact my parents almost every day. We have a phone call maybe once a week, maybe less, maybe more.
Mhm.
And my friends, I mean, I talk to my friends a lot, but not. It's hard to explain. Like I think like we're living such different lives. It's very hard to have a very deep conversation. And so like I always like to check up on my friends because I think for me it's weird, like I still see them as like my best friends, but I
Mhm.
think for them they're still living their lives with everyone else and like they haven't seen me for a year.
Mhm.
And so I often feel like I'm going to go back and like all my friendship groups will have changed because like they will have all changed, but like for me I'll just remember everything how it was before. But
Uh,
no, I think in general I have very good contact with everyone at home. Yeah.
Awesome.
no, yeah, that's great.
It's so good.
Yeah.
I feel like when you travel and you were first starting out, what is something that really inspired you besides your parents? Like, what made you want to travel in the first place?
um I always wanted to learn Spanish. I don't know why, but I just always wanted to learn Spanish. And so that's where like the South America, Latin America idea came from.
Mhm.
Um, and I think like s- since I've been traveling, what's made me want to continue is just like all the stories that you collect and like the weird characters that you meet become very addictive, and
Hmm.
like it's just a weird wacky story after another, and after like a week of like nothing interesting or weird happening, it's like, oh, I should probably put myself in danger again to like get another story. Like it
Oh, wow.
is, yeah, it's so much fun, and that just makes me want to continue. But I think the line will have to be drawn somewhere, but
Mhm.
I haven't drawn it yet.
Yeah. Yeah, I also want to ask, and I'm pretty sure like this is probably like the main part right here is about your story specifically, like from the beginning after you left England. Like after you left England, can you take us through like I guess chronological order, all the countries you've been to up until now, and like maybe some crazy stories along the way? I don't know, just
Okay.
let us know.
Yeah.
So I went to France on holiday, actually with my family. We drove to the north of France, and then they went home, and I continued, and I just hitchhiked through France and into Spain, and I stayed there for a few months. And then Spain went into a massive lockdown, so I went to Turkey.
Oh,
And then in Turkey, I actually traveled with a German guy for 5 months, and that was incredible because his whole ethos of traveling was to live entirely without using money. And so
Mm.
for 5 months, I did not touch money once. And
yo,
Wow.
that's
so what we did was we worked in return for everything. And so we worked in return for food and accommodation. And then, yeah, then we hitchhiked to Iraq from Turkey. And my like best travel story is what happened in Iraq. We were walking through this Medina, and a man just called out to us like, coffee, 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 and we were like, oh no, go away, like, we don't want any coffee, sorry, we don't have any money. And then he's like, oh no, it's fine, you can drink for free. And so we sat down, and then they said like, oh, what are you doing here, like it's not very often that we see people like you in Iraq. And it's actually Iraqi Kurdistan. It's a region in Iraq. It's like there's a lot of political discussion whether it's called Iraq or Kurdistan. So I just want to say both names before I get any abuse from anyone. And then so we like explained that we live without money and always looking for work in return for everything that we need. And then a guy from the coffee shop just said, okay, you can work here. And so that was like completely unexpected, and we ended up working there for a month. And with two Western hippies, one of which, Aaron, the German guy, didn't wear shoes,
wow.
working in a coffee shop in Iraq, it kind of attracted a lot of attention.
Mm.
And we ended up going on two different TV channels.
What?
Um, and actually got really quite famous over there. And like every 10 minutes had people coming up to us asking to take pictures with us.
Oh my God.
People knew our names, like they'd be shouting our names in the street, which was just so weird. We got taken to visit the president of the military, and like we had to go in this like forbidden village in the mountains that like no foreigners are allowed to go through, and like loads of military. And yeah, and then we went there and like we had to wear all these like special clothes, and it was just incredible. And
So
just the people in that area, the people of Kurdistan are just the kindest, most hospitable people I've ever met. Like everyone just constantly asking if we like had everything we needed, if we wanted to go out to dinner. Like there was not a single day where we didn't get like offered lunch or offered dinner, just constantly being taken out by different people and really being really adopted by the country. And so I just have endless gratitude for the people there. And yeah, again, like the stereotype of Iraq is appalling. And even though this is the northern region, which is very different to the southern region, like what I experienced was just nothing like the media, and I felt safer there and more looked after there than I have like anywhere in the world.
Wow.
wow.
um, and then after that we went back to Turkey, and then we sailed the whole way to Egypt. We managed to work on a boat and like hitchhike on the boat whilst working on the boat, so we got it for free. But then when we got to Egypt, we got turned down by the authorities, which was really complicated. So then we had to sail back to Turkey. And then after that, we like split, and I went to Mexico, and that's where this journey started. And then Aaron went back to Germany. And yeah, and so then Mexico, Guatemala, El Salvador, and now Honduras.
Oh
That's
wow.
the order, everything.
No, yeah,
Yeah.
that's seriously amazing. Yeah, and I was about to ask too, with the issues on the boat, like other than that, have you had like any other like border issues crossing country to country?
Yes, I had a big problem trying to get into El Salvador from Guatemala. And what had happened was when I had left Mexico and entered Guatemala, they didn't stamp my passport. They stamped the exit from Mexico, but they didn't stamp the entry to Guatemala. And so I got to the border to leave Guatemala, and they said, you don't have the stamp, like you can't leave Guatemala because you've been here illegally for the last month. And they said, if you want, you can pay us 400 quetzales and we'll make the stamp for you. And that's maybe like $50, $60. And I just said, no, like I'm not paying. It's not my fault that I don't have the stamp. And they had just made the stamp on a different piece of paper. So I said, like, you've just made it on this piece of paper for free, like make it in my passport for free. And then they're like, okay, we can do it for 200 quetzales, which is instantly half the price. And so I'm thinking, okay, you've just gone down so quickly, like I reckon I can get it for free. So then I'm like asking for free, and they're like, okay, hang on, the boss needs to come over. And then like I really stupidly I like went to the side, and then I started vlogging and like explaining the situation to my camera, which was the worst decision ever, because it didn't even occur to me that them giving me the stamp would be completely illegal, and like they were only doing it because I'd pay them. So then I like went back to them, and they said, no, sorry, you have to go back to Mexico if you want to get the stamp. And I'm like, what? Like, I can't go the whole way back to Mexico to get a stamp that you've just proven you can give me. And they're like, yeah, sorry, like, we can't trust you. Now we've seen you with the camera. Like, there's no option. You have to go back to Mexico. And then this other really nice guy just said to me very quietly, if you sleep on the border and wait until 10 a.m. tomorrow, all the security changes round, and so you can probably like have your second chance, and you will have to pay, but at least you don't have to go back to Mexico. So I slept on the border, and then the next day they said 200 quetzales, which is like $25-$30, and so I just gave it to them and I went through. And then yeah, I told a few people about the problem, and they said it's a really common thing. Like the border from Mexico to Guatemala and the border from Guatemala to El Salvador work together. and they deliberately don't give you the stamp because they know that if you don't have the stamp, you can pay the police on the other side. So
No.
like they make loads of money out of it, and it happened for so many people. And yeah, it happened to my friend. Like once I told the story, she was like, oh god, I'm gonna check my passport, and yeah, she doesn't have the stamp either.
Oh my
Like
god.
it's just like a really normal
Like
thing
a
to happen
Yeah,
apparently.
like a ring.
Yeah.
Just keep making
Oh
money
my
on the
gosh.
side.
Yeah.
Something that makes me wonder, having problems crossing the border, especially during these times, how has, the coronavirus affected travels, and how is it in these different countries compared to how it is in England?
England, I can't really talk about because I
Oh,
haven't been there for a while.
Mm.
Um, but like traveling, when we were traveling in Turkey, we made this plan to try and hitchhike to India without using money. But then like the problem was all the different borders that were closed because of COVID.
Mm.
Um, so when we left Turkey to get to Iraq, we were told you had to get a test on the border for $50. And we thought, well, we don't have the $50, but like let's go and see what happens. And we went, and after a lot of talking, they gave us the test for free.
Mm.
So that was fine. But then, which was weird, they didn't check the results before letting us through the border, and they didn't check anyone's results. It was just like,
he's one of the
for
money.
most people, it's like give us $50 and then you can go. Like it was crazy. And then the same for going from Iraq to Turkey, we had to have a test. But that was like a test you had to get before the border. And again, we didn't have it, but from a lot of begging and pleading, we were allowed through, no problem. And then we tried to hitchhike the whole way to Georgia, which also borders Turkey. And online, everything like said it was all open. And then we got there and it was closed because of COVID. So that was really annoying. And then it was the same with Egypt. There was like loads of problems to do with COVID, and that was not the only problem in Egypt, but like one of the many problems was it was like a $150 test on arrival or something, and so we couldn't pay it. But no, other than that, I think it's all been pretty easy. Like entering Mexico from Guatemala, no, entering Guatemala from Mexico, they said you need a test, but then like they didn't ask for it on the border. I think like every border is different, but I haven't really had many problems.
Mhm.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now we're just gonna wrap this up and maybe
Yeah.
ask some rapid fire questions real
Yeah,
quick.
just rapid fire questions.
Okay. So I guess one of the first ones would be about, have you ever like accidentally disrespected a culture
Oh,
or without knowing disrespected someone else?
Yes, I remember in Turkey there was like a big family meal that I was attending, and I didn't really realize, but like, so there's like a huge plate of food on the floor, and like everyone just eats from the same plate. And I just like saw a load of people eating from the plate. So I like went to start eating from it. And then only afterwards they said, like, this guy just comes up to me and he could speak really good English. And he's just like, Alice, it's meant to be just the men eating now. Like it's really bad that you're a girl eating with them. And I'm like, oh fuck, I'm so sorry. Like nobody had told me to stop. I had no idea. But that was kind of fine. Like it was quite funny, but yeah, it was kind of awkward. I feel like something I can't, nothing comes to mind immediately, but I feel like there must have been something happening.
One question I have. Oh, I'm sorry. You go ahead.
No, I can't think of anything. So
Oh, okay. I was wondering. Oh, one
it
question
probably has happened. I just haven't realized.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, so I was wondering, basically, being a female solo traveler, like how has that affected just traveling in general?
I think regardless of being female, but just traveling on your own is something really, really important just to do in general. I think like I would advise it to anyone, whether it's just for a month or for 6 months. I think like you just get to know yourself in ways that are impossible without traveling alone. It's just really, really good for personal growth, and like being able to trust yourself is really important, and you just learn a lot about how to trust yourself. And yeah, I think like that's all I can say really. I think with hitchhiking, I always like take a bit more care being alone, and if I ever am with a boy or just with another person just for the day, it's like, wow, okay, I can really, really relax today. Like I never really feel completely relaxed hitchhiking. I think like it's important to be a bit scared, like it's a form of protection. But yeah, you do really learn how to trust people, and I think that again is something that has really helped me remain out of trouble, is just learning how to read people and like really following your instinct. And I think that is something that you only really learn when you're on your own, because you have to learn it. Like there's just no choice, and it takes a while, like, but yeah.
Nice.
No, that's really good.
Okay. Another question we have here is what has been your favorite food that you tried while traveling?
Knefe. No, actually baklava in Turkey. Baklava. It's a dessert. Gosh, it's a bit hard to describe. I guess I just want to say pastry and a lot of sugar.
Yeah.
Pistachio nuts. Yeah, I mean it's so hard to explain, but it's just incredible.
What?
Yeah, because it's like specifically like a Turkish dessert, right?
I think Turkish and like Middle Eastern area. Yeah.
Okay.
Tahini is an incredible food as well. I remember in Turkey, like there was these shops called the Syria shops, and it was where like loads of Syrian people ran loads of shops, and they just sold the most incredible tahini and dates, and so good. Yes, Middle Eastern food definitely wins it for me.
Nice. And also, like, do you have anything that like you prepare for yourself on the daily, or do you just rely like on the local foods that are right there, or do you like go grocery shopping and make your own stuff?
I cook for myself a lot just because it's like the cheapest thing to do. But I mean, normally when I'm staying with people, like I stay with families a lot, and so there's always like food available. But when there isn't, yeah, I'll either cook for myself, or here like the street food is so cheap. You can have like a really big meal for like $1 or $2. And so that's really nice just to go out and experience it. And there's a big street food culture here in Central America as well. Like at night time, like everyone just hits the streets and is like buying all their food or selling their food. And yeah, it's incredible.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I have one question actually. Someone that, I mean, I think we kind of hit on this. Someone that aspires to travel, what is some advice that you could give to them?
I think I get this question a lot, and it's always, I feel like I give the most wishy-washy answers. I think it kind of depends on what you want to do, because just traveling is a very, very broad term. I think it's very easy to lose your purpose when traveling and just feel really, really bored. And I think trying to like balance the not planning thing and also having a purpose is really, really key. Like for example, I now like my purpose, I feel, is just to hitchhike to Colombia, and it's just something to focus on. And I think if you don't have something to focus on, it's very, very easy to just lose your way and just think like, what am I doing with my life? Also, like I feel the same, like really I'm trying so hard to learn Spanish, and like that's another really good thing to focus on. I think again it's different for everyone, but just traveling for the sake of traveling long term is like very difficult to sustain, and you will get very, very bored. So yeah, I think my advice would be to try and like find a focus, like find something to specifically do, like a specific volunteer project, or like a specific journey, like in terms of like countries you want to go to, or like just immerse yourself in something. Don't just like bumble around.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, that is really good. And also, wait, can you still hear me?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right. So also, another question that I have for you is with Instagram and YouTube, what are your goals for your social media outlets and how you present like your travels and stuff like that?
I wouldn't really say I have many goals with it, to be honest. I think I post how I feel and I post as much as I can. I feel like I post a lot, but in reality, I probably post like 2% of the stuff that I'm doing. I think like I never want to expect anything from social media. Like you know, I think it could be very easy to like try and say, oh, I want to be a YouTuber, but I don't want to just rely on being a YouTuber as my full career, because I think it's very rare that that will actually be a successful thing. And so I think, to be honest, I think I just really want to share truthful stories on my social media and try and just show like the balance of every situation, and anything I post, I try to show like both sides of the situation. And yeah, so I don't really have any like future goals, but my current thing is just to try and be as honest as possible and not contribute to the brainwashing tendencies of social media influencers.
Yes.
Yes.
No, that's great. And I feel like, I mean, I feel like you can honestly turn this into something really big, whether it happens naturally or you want it to, because you're very authentic on your Instagram, and what we realize as well. And like all your captions, there's always something to take away. Like
Definitely.
regardless if someone's traveling or not, there's always some kind of lesson that's being learned through your travels. And I feel like naturally, I mean, that's the best way to I guess make it in through social media. So just be authentic, and you're definitely doing that. So
Yeah, I
Thank you.
definitely do agree with him. When it comes to, I mean, maybe your mission not isn't to be an influencer, but I feel like it just naturally happens. And, you speak very well and you can tell, you're a genuine person and want to just give stories out. So, and I know so many people just see that and get inspired and want to do so much more. And I know someone is listening to this and like, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna do it.
yeah.
I hope if you are listening, yeah, do it. You
Yes.
won't regret it.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. Oh, that was so good.
This was good.
No, I really do feel like this was really good for so many people listening. And I can tell you're a genuine person. When you speak on the travels, I can feel, the energy you give. And we thank you for being very generous with your time and sitting down and speaking to us and sharing your story, not only for us, but so many people.
Yes. No, we do really appreciate it.
No, thank you guys. This has been, I think, like my first proper interview, so it's really exciting for me as well. So,
First of
yeah,
many.
thank you so much. Yes, maybe.
Yes. Yeah, we definitely plan on having you on again, checking up on you and your travels, see where you're at, by then. And I mean, I'm sure you'll be in a completely new area, new country and everything.
Yeah.
So we're excited for that as well.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, guys.
Yeah. Thank you for your time. This was great. We appreciate it. Where can people
Yes,
follow
good. I was
you?
gonna say that.
And
Good job.
what's your YouTube, your Instagram? All that good stuff.
My YouTube and Instagram have the same name, and it's Alice Chapman with the it's.
Okay.
So ITS Alice Chapman. Yeah.
Awesome.
Perfect.
And definitely all that will be linked in the description. So you can just all check that out. Go check her out. You can tell she's a very genuine person. A lot of good just coming out of this human being. And we do appreciate it.
Yes, we do. So thanks again,
Thank
everyone.
you so much.
Thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank